John?
Yeah.
Good. I think what I'd hope for is that I'd like to know what in your marriage has been, what have been some of the most meaningful or significant aspects or elements. They might be good, they might be bad. You might both have quite the same point of view, you might have very different points of view, but it's that kind of thing that I'd like to see if I can get from you. And part of the reason is that I think that in spite of all the books about marriage and all that kind of stuff, there is very little that gives a picture of what marriage is like, or partnerships are like, whether marriage or not, as seen through the eyes of the couple. And that's what I really am interested in, how some of these different things seem to you individually. And so, I guess that's enough of an introduction. I'll just return to my original question. What are some of the things that to you seem like the important things, the things that you like or don't like about your partnership, either now or in the past, or if you want to guess about the future?
I feel one thing I really like is that I feel that we grow together. You know, it kind of sounds like a cliche. That's what you always hear about. You know, it's supposed to be. So I really feel like that. Like if I get interested in something, I can get John interested in it, and I feel that I'm more compatible, or he's more compatible with me now than we were at the beginning. You know, he shares a lot more interest than we did at first, just because, you know, he's interested in what I'm interested in. And I really like that feeling.
Are you interested in more of what he's interested in?
Well, I try to be. You know, I am too.
But it's that aspect of growing in the things you share, is that?
And it doesn't have to start out shared either. It can start out as an independent venture, and the other person begins to share.
You can have an interest in something, and gradually perhaps he joins you.
I think I feel the same dynamic that Nancy does, that we, in a lot of areas, are growing in the same direction and finding new interests together. On the other hand, one of the things that's been most meaningful to me, I think, is in finding someone who I feel is a very compatible partner, that we share a lot of values, that we always did share a lot of values, and see things very similarly. And I think there's a lot in that to me. I'd gone out with a lot of other girls before I met Nancy, and I never felt that there was someone quite as special to me as Nancy turned out to be.
And that is, in considerable part at least, a matter of really sharing some of the same values. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I think it does amount to that.
You look young. Has this been going on for a long time or not?
Well, we've been married for 6 months, and we lived together for 1.5 years before that. So about 2.5 years we've known each other. In 2 years we've been living together.
What are some of the? Is it a smooth kind of marriage? Does it go up and down, or a smooth kind of partnership? Because I really would like to include the whole period.
I feel like it's smooth, you know, fairly so. You know, like every day to day, I feel happy, which is one of the things I like about the marriage. It's not that I can sit and intellectually think, you know, this is a good person for me, but just, you know, I get up and I feel happy about this thing. occasionally I think we might have a few days in a row where we really get on each other's nerves, but it's not a big problem that suddenly cropped up, but some outside thing we're worrying about that's making us more irritable.
Any comments?
I guess I also see it as being fairly smooth. I feel like right when the process of getting married, that at that time it got to be a little bit bumpier in terms of my own anxieties about changing somehow the nature of our commitment. People we talked to seemed to suggest that it would be different after we were married. And I guess in all honesty, when I look at some of the types of lives that some of our married acquaintances seem to be living, I was a little bit worried that I don't know if I really want that type of thing.
You hoped it wouldn't be like that. Huh?
I guess I did. I anticipated that it might be, and I wasn't sure. And so I think right at the time of getting married, I was a little bit worried about what it might turn out to be like. But things have gotten very smooth again.
But at the time of the marriage, that really gave you more concern than the partnerships that had preceded it.
Yeah, it did. It did. I think it. Before I could really feel that every day we were kind of re-choosing each other, and that
you didn't have to be together; you were together.
Right. That somehow there was a freedom that in marriage might not exist.
How about you? Did marriage make any difference as far as you were concerned?
No, I really don't feel any difference at all. You know, John every once in a while will say something about, you know, I do see a difference, and it wasn't like this before. You know, not that it got especially worse or anything. But I don't know if it was that I felt married before I was, or that I still feel like I'm living together instead of married, but it all seems very much the same.
But at least for you, that was no great change in the relationship.
It was a good thing for me because while we were living together, I was worried about my parents finding out about it. So this took a lot of tension off, and that we didn't have to hide this.
You could at least be open about it now.
Right. So I really enjoyed that.
So in that way, it's been a plus.
I think so.
And you spoke at the first as though you're able to do what you want to do, what you're interested in, and I gather John is able to do the same. Can you say any more about that?
Well, I think this was a very conscious decision that, you know, we said, listen, we both have to be free to do what other things, you know, including dating other people and things like that, because one person can't be everything to another person. I have some interest, you know, even though John's interested in hearing something about it, he can't be as fully enthusiastic about it as I am. So if I want to go out and do it by myself or find a friend to do it with, then, you know, I expect it to be fine, and it is fine. And I think that's really a good thing. You know, we really like it, especially when we see how this is often what has fouled up other couples, that they have all these great expectations of the other person, and they can't do things outside of these lines.
But you feel quite free to do what, you feel free to relate to John, but also feel quite free to do other things that he might not be in on, dating and so on.
I feel that it's really necessary, too. You've got to bring in other things from outside the relationship.
It's two independent people relating, not two people that are sewed together in a marriage. Anything to say on that?
Yeah, I was just thinking that really resonates with me, that I think the greatest thing which has made me feel relaxed about the marriage is I feel in Nancy I have complete freedom to be myself and whatever I want to do. And at times, some of the things even scare me, you know, things that I might think of or feel like doing. And Nancy, you know, is very accepting about that. And, you know, with her, it's all right to do it. And I know that really makes me feel good because I can feel I can really be myself and do what I want to do at the time. And I think if it weren't for that, I would still feel somewhat threatened with the idea of being married, that it would be a constraining force instead of one in which I'm not constrained at all anymore than I used to be.
You don't want to be in a box, and you don't find yourself in a box.
Right. And I think I realize at times, too, that I don't reciprocate with Nancy as much. At times I place more of the role expectation upon her than she does upon me, or I can't be completely as free with her as she is with me, and I know how good it feels to me. And,
you mean you can't quite give her the full amount of freedom that she gives you? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Incidentally, if I ask questions that you don't care to answer, don't hesitate to say no to that. I'd rather have you be really free in what you say than be pretend an answer. But you said the freedom that she gives you sometimes leads you into things that even scare you. Would you be willing to give an example or say what you mean by that?
Yeah, I guess a good example is right after we first got married, I still really wanted to go out with some other girls. Sometimes it might be more often than I thought was appropriate. Or it somehow didn't feel exactly right being married and yet going out in very close to a dating situation. And I think I feel the role expectation still more than Nancy does. That when you're married, society and most of your friends see you in the traditional role of being married.
You're supposed to be a husband.
Right, you're supposed to be a husband. A lot of things go with that. There's a lot of things in society which really strengthen the idea that there are certain things which are very inappropriate, and most people live up to them. And so I think when I considered some of the things that we seem to do, or that I seem to be suggesting that I want to do, at least, or I felt that I wanted to do, I'd still kind of hesitate and think, geez, I wonder if I dare say this to Nancy, I wonder if it really is right, if I should be doing this. But Nancy always was able to say, geez, it's all right, and it doesn't bother me.
She's supportive of you even
when I'm not sure of myself.
Yeah, you're not sure yourself. I'd be interested to know, I don't think that's a common attitude. How do you feel you came to the point of view of feeling, yeah, go ahead, you're free to do what you want to do?
Well, I really don't know how too much how it started. It just seemed to the conscious idea was, it was very easy flowing. He didn't suddenly make a decision one night. This is how it had to be. The emotional process is a lot more of a lagging thing. Where I remember one particular period of about 2 months. It was the springtime. John was going wild. This was at a time before we were married, but living together. He was going wild, taking girls out every day. And it was really getting to me then. And I would feel very upset. But I'd, try and be objective about it, and of course come out being very, crooked. And that has just kind of gradually worn off, because every time he goes out with a girl and, comes back, and, even if he's made love with her or, whatever, it's still he comes back to me, and I'm the important one, and,
So in spite of those dates and affairs and so on, still it sort of reaffirms you.
Right, because each time he comes back to me, so it's like he said, I'm still, well, it's not really shopping, but I still get to see all these girls, and you're still the one I choose. So it's a constant
makes it more of
thing,
a real choice, that he really does choose you.
So I can, in ways I really like it.
And do you feel as great a freedom as he does? I gather there was some little difference in that. I wondered, do you feel as much freedom to go out with fellows as he does? Or
Well,
he does
not usually, but it's not usually a practical problem, because I'm not a very social type, and I don't usually prefer to go out with people, anyone. And So on occasion, when it does come up, I think I have more of a problem. You know, not that he'd forbid me to go out, but he often has, says, well, isn't it kind of dangerous? You don't know this guy. You know, he doesn't know the girls he goes out. Of course, it probably is more dangerous on my part, but, you know, it does feel kind of constraining. Listen, don't go out with him. You know, you don't know what he's like. And so it ends up as kind of constrainment, but he's not doing it maliciously because he wants to constrain him, just because he's honestly concerned.
It's out of real concern. And is there any usual answer to what happens then? And, do you tend to say, well, I can take care of myself, or do you tend to say, well, if you're concerned, no?
No, I don't go ahead if he's concerned. I never have, have I?
No, I don't think so. I think that's why I feel like I constrain you more
But
than you do me.
you know, it's not that I usually want to go out that much. If there's somebody that I really want to go out with, you know, maybe I would first try and convince him, and it would probably come down to a point, well, if that's the way you feel, then go ahead and do it, and I'd go ahead and do it, even knowing that he had some reservations about it.
You said that when he was, before you were married, when he was going through this sort of spree of dating a lot of other girls, it really got to you. What were your feelings then? You said you were upset, but can you say a little more about that?
I guess I just felt jealous in that, you know, sometimes he was out while I was in classes, so I couldn't be with him anyhow. But often he'd be out for 3 hours, and I was only busy 1 hour, you know, and you kind of get to feeling, well, why didn't he wait for me instead of gone out for 2 hours anyhow? And it's just, you know, you kind of wish it was you that was chosen instead of the other person. But objectively, I think, well, you know, of course it's more exciting about a different girl, and I'm aware of the fact that John really loves meeting new people. You know, he loves to talk to them and find out all about them, so it's really an exciting process for him. So, you know, I try and console myself with that, but you still have the emotional feeling of, you know, geez, I wish he'd waited for me.
Sounds like your mind says what he's doing is perfectly okay. It's really okay. Only not all of you says that.
It's a little harder in the actual process.
Part of it talks to the other part.
So.
One says, yeah, it hurts. Why didn't he think that much of me? And another part says, sure, it's okay.
Yeah, we've ended up in a lot of crazy arguments, and, you know, where that kind of thing where your emotional and objective, rational sides are at war, it often turns out really cockeyed, because I'd make up some kind of a logical argument or something. It would be really weird.
Where your mind is trying to justify what you really feel, and what comes out is a kind of a nutty argument.
So that was kind of an unhappy period. But.
Can you say anything about any of the what difficulties have you had in your period of partnership? What would you think were some of the most stressful points? Obviously, this was one when he was going out with a lot of girls. Are there others?
I think for me the most difficult thing has been a reflection of what we were just talking about, in that I really like going out with other people. I tend to like groups of 3 or 4 or 5, 6 people, instead of, you know, just Nancy and I being by ourselves maybe all day. And Nancy isn't as inclined in that direction as I am. And so I've had to kind of adjust the idea that really I shouldn't put my thing on Nancy, and that we should always have company over every night. And so I think in some ways I've just compromised and modified my own desires. On the other hand, if there was any one major thing or area where at times I wish things were a little bit different, it would probably be that.
If you could make her over a little, you'd make her into someone a little bit more socially inclined, is that it?
I don't even know if I do that. You know, in its own way, it's nice having someone who, you know, if Nancy was just like me, we'd probably get sick of having people over. Actually, you know, we might be two people who would overdo a good thing. So I don't even know if I'd make her over. But at times I think there's little moments of stress or disappointment that I might wish, geez, I'd like to really do something with someone this weekend, or have someone over today. And Nancy's not really too turned on by it, so if we have someone over, Nancy will be very accepting of it, but it'll be kind of just a response to my desires at the time.
And for you, what are some of the, aside from the one you mentioned, what are some of the dissatisfactions that you sometimes feel?
I think, especially at first, and this too has, been working itself away, but I still feel it at times, is that our values kind of differed, especially when we first met. That John thought, he's very hedonistic, and he always thought it was really nice not to work and be rich and just, be able to do what you wanted all day. And I still have more of a kind of Puritan work ethic, not where I really want to work hard. I'm all with it. You should be able to do whatever you want to do. But if I were given the choice of doing whatever I want to do, I would feel like I really wanted to work at something, maybe not a 40-hour-a-day job, but work at something I liked. And I think I would structure my time a lot more in that. And that bothers me more at first, but, I'm gradually coming to see his ways. But I still feel like there's a lot more that I want to do. And that maybe if John didn't really try, he would just turn into kind of a lazy bum. Not that I want him to work if he doesn't want to, but I want him to be doing something while he isn't working besides just lying around. And, I think maybe he could do that. He probably won't, but possibly that could happen. Sometimes it worries me.
That's interesting, because somehow just from seeing you, I would get almost a reverse impression. What do you have to say about that? Do you think there's any likelihood of you becoming a lazy bum?
No, I don't think so. At times, I think overall Nancy can, at this point in time at least, can really get into more things with more enthusiasm than I can. But I think Nancy upon thought would realize that there are some things I really get interested in, but I tend to be focused on one thing at a time. And when I get into it, I usually zip into it with a lot of enthusiasm.
You see it more as your rhythms being different. I mean, that if you get focused on something and bingo, that's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then there might be a period when you're not focused on very much at the moment.
Yeah, I think I tend to come and go a lot like that.
Mm-hmm. I should know that, and I do rationally when I sit down and think about it, because I know there's a lot of things. You're always coming up with new ideas, and let's do this and let's do that. But it's just sometimes, when I hear him tell people to say, well, what do you want to do? And everybody else answers, well, I have all these, I want to do this and that. And he's, oh, nothing. I just want to, be rich and have fun and all this. And it kind of makes my heart skip a beat, but then when I think about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a case where your mind says, okay, that's what he likes, but your heart sort of says, whoops.
Yeah.
You say you share some things, are you also fairly supportive toward each other in what you do?
Yeah, I myself feel very strongly that we are. In my own perception, without Nancy, I wouldn't be the same person I am today. I find that Nancy is just an integral part of a lot of the things that I do now, and that I just somehow wouldn't really be doing if I didn't have her there. Somehow, not even an overt encouragement, but it's just her implicit support of my ideas, even if she isn't even interested in them, like business ideas or something I might think of. Just really gives me a lot of encouragement to go ahead and try it and do it. And I really like that about our relationship.
Feel a certain backing, really, even though there may not be a tremendous amount of interest.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I'm really dragging my feet, especially on your business ventures. He often comes up with, the way to make a quick million, and I often feel like I'm saying to him, no, it's not going to work, and putting out a lot of pessimism. But probably on the whole, at least I still say, well, if that's really what you want to do, go ahead and I'll come along, unwillingly. But
You're sort of a balanced feeling effect. Do you feel support from him in what you're doing? Or?
I think usually, sometimes I feel like he could show a little more enthusiasm, but that's probably how you feel when, I show pessimism about your business ventures. And I don't think it's something that ever starts a fight or anything, but sometimes I just feel a little bit hurt that, if I said something like, oh, listen, I'm going to go to Africa and study zebras or something, and he doesn't say, wow, that's a really great idea. Something like that. It's really one of those problems that isn't a very practical one. It doesn't come up that often. I don't usually feel hurt about it.
Yeah, that's hypothetical. It sounds as though your differences are not very great when you do have differences. How would you describe the way you fight or work through them, or whatever does happen in your case?
I feel we do it very, very logically.
Logically?
At least I try and be very logical and rational on my part, and John does too. I think I get more outwardly emotional. I cry very easily and everything. John tends to stay very, very cool.
I'm not sure I quite get that. You're very logical, but in such situations you cry very easily.
Yeah, I'm being logical through my tears, though.
It sounds like you're proud of the logic rather than of the tears.
Yeah, I think I am. I'd like to think of myself as a cool person, and I usually think I am not very emotional, and I pride myself on that, maybe because I come from kind of a scientific engineering type family, it's all very rational. But
so that for you, being rational is something you really value a good deal. And your tears, that sort of doesn't fit.
Yeah, it's not that I'm ashamed that I'm around John or anything, or embarrassed by them, but it makes it very hard to talk.
That's true.
Practically it's a problem. And he never cries, so, why should I be the one crying?
You share that picture of her, and what's your reaction to how you work things out?
Well, Nancy does cry easily. It's not always. I don't think that it's deeply emotional for her, but she cries easily. I in some ways, on one hand, I guess I'm not sure that I like hearing the rational thing way over the emotional, is the way it kind of sounds. On the other hand, I think we both been involved in situations where we weren't sure really how we felt, and the whole thing was kind of threatening. The emotions are kind of mixed, and instead of stopping, we kind of let rationality lead and decide, well, we can probably try it and handle it, and if it doesn't work out all right, we'll just say, well, it didn't work out, and we'll do it again. And I think overall it's been an asset more than a hindrance, to be willing to kind of venture forward even when your emotions are a little bit mixed up, or maybe even say something a little bit different from what you're thinking.
So both of you really put rationality above a little above what you're actually feeling. Is that getting that picture right? In the settling of disputes and so on.
I think that would be the important thing is how you rationally think of it. Like even if I feel jealous, I say, well, we both know that it's right that you do this. So.
But I'm not quite so good at that.
Does that really get rid of the jealousy?
I think it helps. I really do. Maybe it's partly that I'm proud of being able to control my emotions somewhat, so that I can work at it anyhow.
What were you going to say, Dennis?
Oh, I was going to say I'm not as good at letting rationality lead me all the time, and I think that's sometimes where I don't give her as much freedom as she gives me. So I think on one hand, like I really feel that it's somehow coming in my direction. It's a real good attribute that Nancy is rational and lets rationality lead. But I think I'm more on a balancing post where at times I'll say, hey, I don't feel good about this, so I wish we wouldn't do it. And at other times I'll let rationality lead, or what I see as rationality, or I'll be willing to say, all right, we'll push the scale. And at times I'll say, hey, I don't feel good about this, so I wish we wouldn't do it. And at other times I'll let rationality lead, or what I see as rationality, or I'll be willing to say, all right, we'll push the scale in this direction.
I'll take the step even though I don't really feel that way. That's what you do sometimes.
Yeah.
You think that you've never really been in a serious crisis, I gather, between you, or would you say you have?
I don't think there's ever been too serious a problem, but I feel sometimes, I can think of one occasion in particular when we went on a trip with some friends, and I was just annoying John all day, not purposely, but just kind of feeling crabby on my part. And at the end of the day, he came out, I knew he was mad at me. He started acting kind of cool. And then when we finally got a chance to talk about it, he said, listen, I want to go away for a week and not see you. And I just really felt terrible. And that really disturbed me. I think that's the biggest, at least that's the worst emotional thing I ever felt. I don't know if that was ever the most dramatic fight, but it was the worst I ever felt, because it's kind of like having the rug pulled out from you.
And it sounds as though in that case both your crabbiness during the day and your feeling of, oh wow, this is terrible that evening, neither of those sound particularly logical.
No, I suppose not. No, there are more emotional reactions.
I found it very interesting to talk to Nancy and John. I was sorry that our time ran out without my having a chance to really bid them farewell. They certainly are a very modern young couple in many ways, I think. Here's a partnership that's lasted 2.5 years, but they've only been married for 6 months of that period. The marriage was upsetting only to John. He found it bumpier, as he said, to meet the role expectations of being a husband. And society expected things of him as a husband that they hadn't expected before. I was interested in his phrase that up to the time of their marriage, he felt they were choosing each other every day. And after marriage, the choice was made, which evidently bothered him some. One thing that certainly stood out was the fact that Nancy gives John an astonishing amount of freedom to have his own dates, to have affairs, and yet in some ways she feels confirmed because after each of his dates and so on, he returns to her, making her feel that after all the alternatives, he still chooses her as the person that he wants to be with. However, we can't overlook the fact that she is hurt and jealous at times like that, even though her reason and her logic tell her that she shouldn't be. That's perfectly all right. John, who runs a little bit more on his feelings, can't give her as much freedom as she gives him. Logic doesn't rule in his world, and he constrains her in many more ways than she constrains him. I think that the degree of freedom that he has is especially indicated by the fact that he's sometimes scared of all the freedom that he gives her. He wonders, is this really okay to do things like this? Or should I abide by a more conventional role? But then she tells him that's all right. They seem to be a compatible young couple, sharing an increasing number of interests and really appreciating each other. He likes her as kind of a balance wheel, and to some extent I think that's reciprocated. It's kind of a surprising reversal that in this case Nancy is the one who has the work ethic. She believes you should really be putting in your time usefully, and that he's the hedonist, and as she says, maybe he could even become a lazy bum, which troubles her somewhat. But I'd like to get to the main concern that I felt about this young couple, and that is Nancy's tendency to try to control and deny her feelings. Here's a young woman who weeps easily. I think you could tell from her appearance she's an emotional person. She gets hurt and jealous. She feels it was the worst day in her life when John said after she'd been kind of irritable all day that he guessed he would leave her for a week. And yet she tries to hide all this by putting reason and logic ahead of her feelings and emotions. She's a strong one for rational thinking. Logic is her way for solving problems, and she feels that all their difficulties can be resolved if they can be logical and reasonable about it. It even applies to the freedom that she gives to John. She thinks in her mind that that's the way it should be. She should give him complete freedom, so she does. And then she tries to suppress the hurt that she feels when he, for example, takes a girl out for 3 hours when really he could have taken her out for 2 of those 3 hours. She wasn't that busy all that time. In my judgment, and I'm sure my bias showed through in the interview, someday these denied feelings in her are going to cause difficulty in this partnership. They'll catch up with her. I don't know exactly how they'll come out. I don't have any idea about that. But when they do catch up with her, that's not going to be a very happy time for her, nor for him, nor for their relationship. There's one concluding statement that I would make. They said that they supported each other in their occupations and seemed to feel they were really supportive. After the close of the interview, I learned what their occupations were, and I have their permission to tell you what they do. John, in spite of his perhaps rather lazy inclinations, teaches business and is involved in business affairs. She's a part-time student, which doesn't seem surprising, and a girl who comes from a scientific and engineering family. But she does her share to support the family and to pay for her education by putting in part-time as a topless go-go dancer. I don't know whether that gives you a jolt, but it gave me somewhat of a jolt to learn that. And the interesting thing is that that's with her husband's approval, because it's a far more lucrative occupation than any other job she could get. So perhaps that indicates more than anything that I could say that you can't stereotype people. They are unique beyond our wildest imagination, and each couple finds its own way of endeavoring to cope with life, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so successfully. And as I say, I think that this couple, though they have many things going for them, also have this one element that may cause them real difficulty in the future, unless she's able to recognize that her feelings are just as important as her ideas, and that rationality is not the answer to all problems, and she's got to enter into the relationship as a whole person, accepting both her feelings and her reasoning.